Okay. Am I actually live? What's happening? View event. Yes, please. Okay. I think I am actually live. Oh god, I'm gonna echo. No! Ah! I'm lost. Help me. Okay. Okay, I think we have... All right, I have gone to the right place. Oh, that's my own voice. No, let's not do that. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Wow, there were like a ton of you waiting. What is up? How is everybody doing? Happy Friday. New microphone. I'm gonna show it to you guys. It's not on a stand yet because the old stand I had isn't compatible with it, but we got a new microphone. Ooh, so fancy. It's currently perched on a box in front of my computer, like the professional that I am. Let me know if it's too quiet. I think I have some versatility in being able to adjust things. Yes. You are glowing. Thank you. I am literally, I have a like lip screen, sunscreen for your lips. I have that on and a little bit of eyeliner. That's what we're working with today. My skin, let me tell you guys, living in this apartment by myself has done wonders for my skin. Absolute wonders for my skin. It's amazing. Also, the First Aid Beauty coconut moisturizer / primer combo, amazing. Love that. That is highly recommend for the glow. Okay, glad to hear. Good, finally live stream we didn't miss. Well, welcome Danny. Wow, you guys were like chatting it up before I got here. Yes, I started a little bit late today because my sleep schedule is still horrifically messed up from a combination of things, some of which is the Marilyn Manson video, staying up until 6 a.m. for like 3 days. Some of it is just my life is, it's my life. What can you say? What can you say? I'm trying to reset my sleep schedule, but it's not going great. It's not. I need tips. Q&A for y'all. How do I reset my sleep schedule, and does it involve melatonin? I was just on a Kink channel on Twitch and they wouldn't answer questions. Well, that's unfortunate. You can ask them here though. I mean, I depending on what they are, I might not answer them. Like, if you're going to ask me, like, I don't know, something wildly inappropriate, I'm not going to do it. So, really quick, before we get into the meat of the conversation, this is our weekly Q&A. We hang out, we talk about current things going on in the BDSM community. Sometimes I come in with topics in mind. Other times it's just strictly like an open floor Q&A. So I'll be answering your questions. There is an FAQ and rules down in the description box below this. So if you click on like show more, it will show you like a part of the FAQ, and then it'll show you like a link to the full FAQ for all of the questions. And the best part about this is it gives you a really easy way to find answers to common questions. So you have full access to a complete answer that, you know, I might forget parts of if I'm like answering it during a live stream. And if you have like personal specific situations that like relate to things in the FAQ, like for example, like a general question that would be answered in the FAQ would be like, how do I tell my boyfriend that I'm into BDSM, right? Like a specific question that's related to that I can't answer on a live stream would be like, I tried to tell my boyfriend in BDSM, but then this situation happened. What should I do? Because that's like very specific to like you and what happened to you. So that, oh, thank you for the follow. And that just like helps me kind of narrow things down a little bit, because like if I have to answer something that's really, really abstract, then either it takes forever or I'm like, there's so many possibilities, where do we even start? So that is what we got going on there. So please check that out. Just some things that we don't generally talk about on this channel. I don't give advice on how to do edge play, so things like blood play, choking, things along those lines. I don't give advice on how to do those in general, but especially on live stream, because I I truly, truly think in order to do those things in the safest way possible, the best thing you can do is in-person instruction. There's tons of really wonderful video online courses that pop up on FetLife every probably month or so if you want to learn about that. I'm not that person. I don't feel like I have the capacity to teach that in the fullest way possible, so I would choose not to. And I also don't give health advice, so if you're wondering about, like, I don't know, depression or a rash, or if cranberries treat UTIs or whatever, it's not my jam. I can't help with that, and I would encourage everyone to not give health advice in the chat because I can't always monitor, and fact check things in real time. So those are just some guidelines, some rules. Otherwise, open floor. I have some things in mind to talk about. Obviously, there's been a lot going on in terms of, YouTube, consent, relationships, all of that stuff. Not necessarily directly related to BDSM in the way that, like, for example, the Marilyn Manson situation or Armie Hammer were, but I think have what I would call, like, teachable moments in them, maybe, let's say, that are important for anyone of any variety to know. How are you? I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, I think I'm doing pretty good. I've been diving deep into some craft projects recently. It has been really nice to have sort of an artistic outlet, I think is the best way to describe it. I have some exciting things I'm working on behind the scenes. So that, like, I feel like I have a lot of motivation and creativity right now, and I'm really, really loving it. PogChamp. We are fully in Twitch culture now, everyone. We're fully in Twitch culture. So the blue highlight names that you see in the YouTube chat, those are people who are moderators. Those are people who are moderators. FYI. Very low sound. Really? Okay, so that shouldn't be. That doesn't make sense. I am literally in yellow peeking into red when I'm talking, so I can't monitor myself. Give me a second. I'll listen to it on my computer. Give me just a second. I want to hear what other people are hearing. I don't know. Sounds fine to me. Okay. I know everybody's like, and it's hard because, like, everybody's different, like, computers and TVs and everything have, like, totally different volume controls on them. So, like, I only can go off of what my output is showing, because, like, if I get into red too much, then it just sounds like I'm screeching. It's not good, but it is new equipment, so I have to calibrate it a little bit. Okay, so getting back to where's the chat? Oh, there it is. I'm so silly. I am so silly. I am eating a chocolate cake with whipped cream and cookies and cream ice cream. My diet is fine. The cookie went about. Oh my god, that's amazing. You know what, guys? You know what I did after? You know what I did after I filmed and I finished the Marilyn Manson video? Was it? I don't remember. I don't think it was the day it was published, but it was the day that I finished editing it. I literally made myself, this is the first time as an adult I've ever bought cake mix, but I don't have, like, all the ingredients to, like, make a homemade cake. So apparently it's actually really easy to turn, like a box cake mix, like just the general ones, like the ones you get from Whole Foods, for example, that are like $3.65 brand or whatever. Super cheap. All you gotta do is, like, vegetable oil and vegan milk and, like, egg replacer. That's it. And I made a yellow cake with chocolate frosting, and that was what I ate for dinner. It was like 8 p.m. It was the first thing I ate that day, and I literally just ate chocolate cake, and I was like, fuck it. This is my life. I'm gonna eat cake, because especially the end of that video gets, like, intense, and, like, I edited See, it's interesting because like definitely different chunks of the video would take me like a different amount of time to actually edit, but like the last half was pretty dramatic, also because I had like a crisis where like I thought it was so early in the morning, and I thought that I had accidentally like lost like 2 hours worth of editing, and I was like, I'm just going to zen, moment of zen. I am happy. I am doing great. My laugh is fabulous. Love tuning in every now and then and see your background slowly build and change as you establish yourself. Yes. Yes. Okay, so behind there, right, like over my bed, do I have it here? Let me see if I can show you guys. Okay, I thought I had it over here. It's not over there. But behind over there, I have like a big tapestry that I'm gonna put. That's like a darker colored tapestry, and then I'm going to get some fairy lights to hang over there because I have an outlet that's like super close by, so it's a great spot to put lights. And then I also have my star, my big paper starlight. I don't know how to. It's supposed to attach to the ceiling. I don't know how to attach it to the ceiling in a way that's like kosher to living in an apartment. So that probably, I'm hoping, if I need the lights still, and then I need like the command hooks and things for actually hanging up tapestry. But I'm hoping sometime in the coming week I will have that ready, and we will have a wonderful, lovely little starry, colorful background. I also need to get color light bulbs for my lamps in here. I think that'll be a nice touch too. I like the yellow light. I like the soft yellow light, but we like colorful options here. So that's my plan for that. And maybe next week y'all will see it. Lorazepam. Maybe. I don't know how to get access to that though. Just general questions? Yeah, feel free to ask. If you have general questions, go for it, my dude. Weed edibles? I do live in a state where weed of all varieties is legal. And I think there's like a shop close. There's a bunch. There's no reason why I couldn't go to one. It's just cash is a problem because I don't ever have cash, and especially in COVID times. It's like, do I want to hold these dollar bills? This seems risky. Where do you recommend to buy canes from? So I do, if you look in the FAQ, I do have links to, let me just open this up. I can direct you to the right place. I have links to tons of shops. In terms of where I personally recommend getting canes from, I see a lot of the places I've gotten canes from, like, don't have online stores or like aren't open anymore. But I do, was it Rods by Rain, I think? RANE. They make acrylic canes, and that's where I've got them. Because most of the canes I've got, actually, I've bought in person, either at events, conventions, and there's a sex shop that I go to here that has a fairly like robust kink section. It's not just like mass manufactured, Chinese repackaged, wish level stuff. It's like they purposely got and they source from like local creators to like have stuff in that section of the shop. So it's a bunch of really like oftentimes very unique things, and I feel very lucky to have that resource. But I think Roz by Rain is the name of the place. But I do have, if you go to the FAQ, I have links to like shop resources for like everything. Anything you could want. Got your first COVID shot this week. Hopefully that's going well. I don't know where even I am on the list to get a COVID shot, but I am hopeful it will happen soon. Oh, yeah, staying off the phone before you sleep. That is true. That is true. I am usually pretty strict. I will look at my phone in the morning when I wake up. But I like at night usually don't look at my phone right before I go to bed if I'm actually like in bed, you know. What kind of crafting? I am working on making like bath and body stuff. So actually, I can put this in the chat. I am working on, let me see, where is the link to that? Where is the link? Okay, I can't find it. Anyways, I'm working on developing a couple things that I think will be really fun. But I'm making soap, body scrub, massage oil. Like I'm doing a lot of DIY stuff, and it's really fun. And it's not that expensive for a lot of projects, which I find really exciting. And my entire house smells like soap constantly, so that's fun. Oh, I'm good now. Oh, I wonder. Oh, of course, Valheim. I have not played that. I would like to play it at some point. I'm debating, actually. I don't know if any of you guys also watch my Twitch streams, but we just finished Witcher 2, and I'm debating going from either starting Witcher 3 and doing that or doing Valheim, because I've heard good things, and people seem to really like it. I am also on Twitch. If you go to my description box as well, there's literally a link that says watch on Twitch, and it is on there. It's just twitch.tv/evlupine. So pretty easy to find. Okay, important thing. I always forget I have to say this because people don't know. Do not ask for other people's personal identifying information in the chat, please. Be very cautious. You know, these streams do stay up afterwards, so you know your username, your pictures and things are like associated with being on this chat. So be cautious about sharing your location, your FetLife name, your email address. If I see you asking people for that, or if I see you sharing it, I will probably remove your comment because that is not appropriate and could get people in trouble. I have a few questions you can get to whenever you'd like, or have them all separately. Yeah, I mean, just ask them, like, whenever. Generally, like, one at a time is better than all at once, because usually I'll go off on a tangent, and then I'll need to, I need to get back before I answer any further follow-up questions. Unleash the screech. No. No water in cake mix. But the cake mix didn't even call for water in my recipe. Dang, everybody giving me tips for using box cake mix. Too late for that. I'm sorry. Ha! I know you play Animal Crossing. Have you made a dungeon room in your house? Just curious. No, see, it's funny because, like, I'm very lucky in that I get to, like, live like doing BDSM so often that like I kind of like having like my Animal Crossing is like really like nice and sweet and wholesome. Like I have friends that have made dungeon rooms and like they you know make something that looks like a porn like filming studio, which is funny, but I haven't done that. I just like you know, Animal Crossing is wholesome, especially because like for a while I was I also like I didn't share my game, but I had I was around somebody that had like a younger child that they couldn't read yet. They were like that. They were that age. They couldn't read yet, but they loved playing my Animal Crossing game. And so if anything like untoward was in my game world, like the little kid would have seen it, and that feels like really inappropriate to me. So it's just like, I mean, they mostly liked it because they couldn't read yet. So like they just would go to other animals' houses and they would be like, "Can I have that?" I'd be like, "No, we can't. That's theirs." That was the extent of them playing the game. It was cute though. It was cute. What is Evie drinking? Oh, this is of course pamplemousse. Pamplemousse LaCroix. And I'm also just having regular water. Usually what I'll do is I'll leave one of these cans open. I don't drink soda. I don't like carbonated stuff. Is not usually my thing. I just don't drink it. So usually what I'll do is I'll crack one of these open and I'll leave it open for like half a day first before I drink it, just because the carbonation is too much. But also alternating between carbonated and still water for some reason also seems to help. I just don't the bubbles like kind of. Does anybody else have that? Like, do the bubbles like ever like kind of like burn your nose almost a little bit? Like maybe I'm just drinking wrong. I don't know. I do have a music list. It has been a hot minute since I've updated it. There's no Marilyn Manson on it, by the way, in case you're wondering. There's no Marilyn Manson on it. But it is something it's not for every BDSM scene, but it's definitely a specific flavor of BDSM scene. Looks like Mountain Dew. I think LaCroix is about as opposite of Mountain Dew as you could probably get without it just being water. Just plain water. Ooh, okay, yes. Great question, Nixleys. I'm pronouncing your name right. I guess now's a good time as ever to stop being a nervous wreck and ask my question. We're proud of you. Any advice for the aftermath of a bad dynamic, like advice on feeling like you're losing yourself, etc.? Oh man, that is so painful, and I totally get that. You know, for me, really, actually, I have a video about self-collaring that's gonna be up probably in the next like 2 weeks or so, and this will get into a little bit. I know, like, some people feel like comforted in like collaring themselves, and like I'm not gonna explain why in full. I'm just gonna toss it out there, and then there's gonna be like a whole like 20-minute video explaining that in not too much further time. But I think the key thing for recovering from a bad dynamic, I mean, also depends on what bad means as well, because there's bad, like I was neglected and like my needs weren't met and I was kind of ignored and treated like I wasn't important. And then there's like bad, like this person horrifically abused me and violated my consent numerous times, and when I would say safe words they wouldn't stop, and like there's all sorts of different flavors of how a dynamic can be bad, and I think each one of those bad things has to be addressed in their own way. I'm a really big advocate for seeking therapy or something like that to be able to help you process those things. There are tons of resources for that you can find that are kink and poly aware, so you're not just hoping that a random therapist will understand your kink lifestyle as opposed to pathologizing it. There is a website called the National Coalition for Sexual Freedom. They have a free resource basically list on there where you can search by state and find therapists and other related fields as well. They have tons of things on there that are like kink professionals that you can find, so you can preemptively know who has like kink awareness or is in the lifestyle themselves and understands that aspect of recovering from a relationship. If you were in a polydynamic as part of your BDSM as well, there is a book that's called the Polyamorous Breakup Book that also has some helpful advice in it. It's really sad. Maybe I'll be the person to do this, but if I'm not, like, feel free to steal this idea. Like, nobody's written a book on dealing with BDSM breakups and ending relationships. And, you know, this is more advice for future relationships, but I do really strongly believe in creating scenarios where like you acknowledge that the relationship can and probably will end at some point when you are establishing the dynamic, right? So if you have a contract, you have something else written down that outlines the nature of the relationship, use that as a time to talk about what procedures will we take to end the relationship in terms of, you know, slowly reducing rules, getting used to not using titles anymore. What sort of support system do we want to make sure that you have in place? You know, if you're living together, how do you handle that? And it's scary to talk about that, but you know, I know this just from my like own intuition and definitely from older members of the community that have had to deal with, you know, for divorce, you know, being widowed even. So, and loss of dynamics can come from a lot of places. So having a plan ahead of time to kind of understand, okay, this is what we're going to do. But of course, abiding by that is the best case scenario, because if the situation is really bad, you have to leave in sort of an emergency circumstance, then those things won't necessarily help you. But for a run-of-the-mill kind of deciding, we're not really compatible anymore type of breakup, those things can be helpful. But for advice on feeling like you're losing yourself, I think it's really hard, especially if you were a submissive or a slave in a BDSM dynamic and you were really, really giving, if you weren't getting the energy back, especially to feel like when your BDSM relationship is over, you've lost a part of yourself. And I think you just have to be able to internalize that you are worthy and good and still submissive, even if you aren't somebody's submissive, right? And you are still capable of doing that. You're still worthy of love and doing the BDSM relationships that you want, even when you're not with somebody. I think the best thing you can do to kind of reestablish that sense of self that I've personally found very helpful is to get into hobbies, reestablish other connections like friendships and things that maybe got neglected because you were so focused on this relationship, or you weren't allowed to talk to these people because of the person you were in a relationship with. And doing things like, either finding old hobbies that you can go back to, or making new ones, things that are like productive and creative, I've always found to be a really, really good outlet, whether that be painting or making pottery, writing poetry. And these can also serve a double purpose where it's not just about reconnecting to you and yourself and finding strength in who you are as a single person being worthy, but also it can be an outlet for getting out the rage and the pain and the frustration and sadness that you experience from the loss of that relationship. You can absolutely channel through doing things like art. I've also found things like, guided meditation can also be really helpful. Just self-care practices in general. I think it can be really difficult as well. One of the aspects that I talked about in my video on like the toxic side of submission is when you're so used to other people like establishing rules for you and helping you guide your life in that way, when you have to suddenly take care of yourself again on your own, it can be really hard to know how to set your own schedule and kind of be a full adult without somebody else guiding you there. And I think it's really important to just even remember the daily stuff, right? Brushing your teeth, taking a shower, making your bed, and then taking time for yourself to do things that you feel are restorative and feel like good in your body and good in yourself. So for me, that looks like I really like taking hot showers. I love taking hot baths. If you like that, if that's restorative for you, that can also be really good. Or whatever else it is that you like doing, like just like making a fancy meal for like just you. Just like, I'm not doing this because my dom ordered me to. I'm not doing it because it's like a service thing. I am making myself like awesome food, and it's because like I want to enjoy this food for me. And I think the more that you can establish that connection with you as being a good person, and you're almost kind of serving yourself in a way, that can be something that will contribute to kind of growing back into yourself, if that makes sense. It's a little bit difficult to explain because there's so many things, and like everybody's gonna have different things that are helpful for them. Those are just sort of things that have worked well for me. But depending what the badness was in the dynamic, I think really the primary step should be having, trying to cultivate sort of an extended support system, whether that be with friends, family, people in the lifestyle you know and trust, a therapist, some other kind of mental health professional that can help you, and be supportive when you are going through the process of trying to process what happened in the dynamic. And you have to be patient with yourself too, right? Because I think, we have a tendency to put timelines on recovery from things, and it's like everything. Like, we're recovering from breakups, recovering like from having a baby. Like, we're like, 2 weeks, you should be done, right? And you can't put a date on like your mourning and your recovery. You have to let it be whatever it's going to be. And sometimes it is just 2 weeks and you're like, fuck it, I'm over it, I'm done, I'm good to go, and you're just like fully processed, fully ready to go back out in the world. And other times, especially if it was BDSM and it was abusive and it was like all of these really toxic negative things that really, really strongly affected your sense of self and well-being, like it could take months, it could take a really, really long time to recover from that. And you have to be gentle with yourself and allowing that space and time for recovery, and not letting other people dictate what that should look like for you. All right, I'm going to stop rambling about that because I'm sure there's plenty of follow-up questions, but thank you for your question. And I'm so sorry, by the way, as well. I should say that for sure. Like, wowzers. When BDSM relationships end, BDSM relationships are beautiful and dangerous all at the same time. High CBD edibles are great for sleep. You know, I have tried all different varieties of CBD in terms of form, strength. I don't know. I'm not a weed expert by any means. It's, you know, it's not really something I do often. It is legal here. It's been legal here for quite a long time now. But I've never found CBD like does anything for me, which is really disappointing because I love the idea of like CBD like massages, for example, stuff like that. And like I've tried all sorts of different topical stuff, you know, tinctures, you know, under the tongue, like sublatives, whatever those are. I've tried everything, and I've all sorts of different strengths and dosages, and like I haven't really noticed a difference from any of them. Thank you, Mr. Beansman. I'm still new to kink. I watched your video on coming onto your family as kinky. Can those same concepts apply to vanilla friends? And do you have any advice on balancing kinky and vanilla friendships? That is a great question. So I think in general, those concepts do apply to any kind of relationship you have where you're trying to come out to a vanilla person, whether that be friends, family. I think the risk is like higher with your family because like sort of the concept is like your family's always there, you know, like friendships come and go, but like to some extent your family is a little bit more permanent in most people's lives. So, you know, the way that you handle it might be different, but I do think the same general concepts do apply. There is a book, like I think I said this in the video, but it's been years, so maybe I didn't, but there is a book. It's called When Someone You Love Is Kinky. It's by the same people that wrote the New Guide to Topping and the New Guide to Bottoming. So it's a resource that's been around for a long time, tried, true, tested. That can be a really good like additional resource to get some like really, really in-depth advice on. In terms of balancing vanilla and kinky friendships, I'm maybe not the best person to ask about this because basically since I've been in the BDSM community, I like don't really have any friends that are like just strictly vanilla. Usually they are at least kink aware and they're like willing to have conversations about it and they know about it as opposed to it like not even being part of their world or their realm at all. But I think it's like balancing any sort of, you know, friendships, right? Like you have friends that are in two different groups, you know, maybe these are my Dungeons and Dragons friends and this is my what hobbies do people have? My mountain biking friends. Like, you know, if you have two very different groups of people you do very different hobbies with, like it's the same way you would balance that, but it just happens to be, you know, kink and vanilla, and you know, usually the mountain biking people and the D&D people, there might be like some overlap, but usually if hobbies are pretty separate, the people are going to be separate. And you know, balancing, I think anything like friendships and family, like it's going to be a continual juggling act where sometimes it's going to be weighted more one way than the other, but it's about sort of the balance over the long term where, you know, maybe it's going like this, but then the average looks like this. You know, it's about, you know, making sure you're not spending, if you want to, make sure you're not spending all of your energy on one basket or one group of people. But, you know, I've really not really experienced any sort of regrets over not having vanilla friends or friends that are just strictly vanilla because, you know, my kinky friends aren't just my kinky friends. They're friends that I have that also do kink, but we talk about so many things. And, you know, kink isn't the only thing that we discuss. It's just that it helps it be comfortable being a subject because, like, it helps when you're making jokes and things like that to, you know, I can make a joke about necrophilia and, like, it's going to be this weird instead of, like, this weird. You know what I mean? So, thank you for your question. Hopefully that helped. My boyfriend is very service-oriented and loves wearing a collar around the house to do chores. How can I be more involved rather than just watching him? Okay, before I answer this, I am going to need some clarification here. So, you're saying that he's very service-oriented and likes wearing a collar around the house. How involved are you at this point in making like an actual BDSM relationship? Is it just like he by himself decided he wanted to wear a collar when he's doing regular around the house stuff, like taking out the garbage or doing the dishes or whatever? Or did you establish that this is like a service dynamic where part of his service is that like he's wearing a collar? Because I think the approach is very different if it's just like, oh, he decided to start wearing a collar when he like does the dishes at home, but like we don't really have a BDSM dynamic, versus like having a BDSM dynamic already and trying to figure out how to add onto it and like make it more involved. And ultimately, you know, the question I think to ask is, does he want you to be more involved? Because I noticed this. I think a lot of male submissives sort of, there's two things, right? There's always two things. A lot of male submissives do genuinely just like sort of almost kind of being ignored and like love to do their own thing, and they might not want you to be more involved than you are. Maybe they want to hear, you know, recognition afterwards, after, you know, the task is completed, but oftentimes like service submissives don't really want to be bothered too much in the act itself, you know. All right, next question. Do you have some scent ideas? Give us a preview. I can give you guys a preview. I'll show you the one that I'm really excited about. That's my favorite so far. I've used this one a couple times, so it's like kind of dull. But this is, it's orange. It's like orange, how is it pronounced? Orange peyote, like orange peyote tea, and like crumpets is the smell. It smells really, really good. It's my favorite. I'm planning on having this one be like tea service or tea party or something. This one's my favorite of all the scents I think I've made so far, but I literally have dozens of them, and I'm currently testing 6 different versions of a bath scrub formula. So it is in the process. It is ongoing. It's been a fun hobby, but this is the one of the soaps I made. I've used it a couple times, so it's a little bit like, it's like dull, and like, you know, you guys can see it's been used, but I enjoy it. I think it's fun. It's a good smell. How in the world do you make the scent of crumpets work in a soap? But they figured it out. Somebody formulated it, and they did a great job. I'm stuck on training. I'm absolutely lost when it comes to training my pet/middle, and I've had zero luck finding things online. Okay, so I don't see any further context for that. So when you say stuck on training, what are you trying to find that you are failing to find online? Like, training can mean a bunch of different things. So I think if we can narrow it down, that's going to be like the best way that we can come up for a solution with this. And are you trying to find training that is for the pet side, the middle side, or both? Wondering if there are, or what are, safe BDSM dating apps, or how to connect with find potential partners with similar kinks. I really don't recommend FetLife for dating, honestly. Back in the day, you know, when we could do things in real life, you know, there would be like local spaces where you could, you know, find a forum that was like the Chicago BDSM community personal ads or whatever, and you could post on there, so you could talk to people that were in your local community that were part of that group, meet people, and then online, and then like meet up in real life. And trust me, as soon as like COVID's over, I'm going to be doing that again myself, so I will have more data on how easy to do that is. And other than that, like, not really. I mean, I honestly, like, because for me, I'm looking for a relationship that has BDSM in it, as opposed to only BDSM by itself. Like, I'm not really looking for just play partners. I use OKCupid, and OKCupid does have questions they don't have any way to filter like specifically kinky people, but they do have lots of questions. And if you ask or answer enough questions, there are ones in there that are related to like dominance and submission. And, you know, it's mostly more like bedroom focused, like kink questions. But if you answer them such that you're like affirmative that you're kinky, like you will match more often with other kinky people. And at least where I live, I have matched with like a ton of people over the years that are kinky, kink aware, or even people that don't necessarily have another profile, but they find mine, and then they're like, this isn't my profile, but, you know, here's my, you know, and we get into a conversation, and then we share FetLife information. So it's certainly a way to find people, and like, and I find it to be the most useful of the apps, because it's, you know, it's very popular. There's lots of people that are on it, and you don't generally see, here's the problem with kink apps for dating, is that because they are so kink oriented, the majority of their user base on there are people that are treating it like a hookup app, where they open up the conversation immediately and are like, hey baby, can I choke you? And like, it's not really people that are necessarily like genuinely looking for BDSM relationships. It's just people that are mostly looking for like one night stands, in my experience. And I think OKC does a pretty good job of weeding a lot of that out, because it usually doesn't attract those people, because those people go to other like websites and apps and things. That's my advice and experience. Favorite system to play video games on, and favorite game/games, like ever, of all time, or currently? So let me think about that. I mean, like PC is just like, I genuinely like really playing on, I don't know if that counts as a system, but I definitely like playing on PC. I've always been a PC gamer. I really like computer games, as we would say. I like the Switch, though, as well. I've really enjoyed the Switch. Why can't they remake Nintendogs? I'm going to Google it. Nintendogs remake. Is that happening? Is that a thing? Little Friends, Dogs, and Cats. I really wish we had new Nintendogs. That's all I want. Like, why haven't they? Like, Nintendogs has to be, like, one of their most popular, like, series of games ever, you know? But I like that. I like Fire Emblem a lot. Honestly, the Witcher series has been equal parts fun and frustrating, I think, in some respects. I really like Dragon Age. That's probably, in terms of, like, lore and world in combination with gameplay and aesthetics and everything, like the Dragon Age franchise for sure. That's the one. I literally played the first game and the second game in particular, because they're shorter. I played the first game all the way through, I think, 3 times. And I've played the second game because it's like, I got to the point where I could basically speedrun it, and I could finish the game in like 2 days over the summer. And so I just did like every different combination of different, of different, you know, genders and classes and people who were in my party and who weren't. And that I think I probably ran through like 5 or 6 times. Even though people are very like negative towards the second game, I found it really enjoyable enough to play like multiple times, because it was short enough. And you know, I do love Oblivion. Skyrim was good, but it didn't have the je ne sais quoi. You know, it didn't have the je ne sais quoi as Oblivion did. And primarily for me, I blame it on the Dark Brotherhood questline, because that's like the cornerstone for me as far as I'm concerned. Because the way that I always sort of like role play Oblivion was that like my like primary things, that I was part of the Dark Brotherhood, and I, you know, had sort of infiltrated the other guilds with like the intention of sort of being able to turn the other guilds away from the Dark Brotherhood, you know, so that way like the Fighters Guild, for example, wouldn't interfere in like Dark Brotherhood business. That was sort of like the headcanon I had about it. So I really enjoyed the Dark Brotherhood and Oblivion, not so much in Skyrim. Not that Skyrim's by any means a bad game. It was just like there was something, maybe it was nostalgia, I don't know what, but there was just something about playing Oblivion that like the feel of Skyrim didn't quite have. Yes, of course, I have played Divinity Original Sin quite a number of times as well. People, that's not like a series though, because I haven't played the original, the first game. I've only played the more recent remake, series, sequel, whatever you want to call it. That's on the PlayStation, PC. That's what I meant. How do you like your new place? I am really liking it. Bandit is loving it. She has a wonderful, yes, hi honey, I'm talking about you. There's a wonderful big window Bandit gets to watch the day go by from, and my microwave died, so I need to get that fixed. It just won't turn on, so that's fun. That's like the only bad thing that's really happened, but I genuinely really like this place. I'm very comfortable here. I mostly just hang out in my room, like what you guys are seeing right now, because I don't have anything in my living room at all. But I think I'm pretty happy here. Pretty happy. Yes, I've been meaning. I thought I updated the animations for follows and stuff, but I guess I didn't. So, unfortunately, we do have the Christmas tree popper, but it's not too bad. Not too bad. How do you find the scene? I'm from the UK and COVID restrictions are lifting in June. I've not explored the community much yet. FetLife is really your best friend. I'm not that familiar with how it works in the UK, so I can't really give specific information, but FetLife is, you'll hear about it all the time, is basically, Kinky Facebook. Less minion memes than on Facebook, as I understand it, but that's where you're going to find events and groups and people and things that are local to you. And there's like a munch directory website. I can't remember, but I have lots of videos about it. So if you just search my channel for like how to find the BDSM community, like there will be videos that pop up that'll answer more in particular, and also my FAQ. Do you listen to those songs for scenes? So that is referring to the playlist that I have on my channel. Not presently. That's for like a very specific type of scene that I'm not like currently having. So the answer is like yes, but not always. Like it's for a very specific type of scene with a particular energy, which is not all of them. So sometimes yes, I have, but not for everything. My child hates carbonated drinks. She calls it spicy juice. Oh my god. That is great. I'm going to steal it. That's fantastic. Oh, I don't have straws. You guys know what I really want? I want curly straws. Like the big loopy ones that you drink chocolate milk from. I have hardcore nostalgia for those. I got a bunch when we were kids, and we went to Disneyland, I think, and we got a bunch of them that had like the characters on them. Oh man, the memories of the curly straws. Yes, the Loving BDSM podcast has a couple of really good episodes on breakups. Yes, love Loving BDSM. Definitely recommend them. They have a ton of like, because, we both talk about BDSM, but we have very different like experiences in different stages of life. So if you want advice about like, parenting while being BDSM and BDSM breakups and things, like they definitely have more advice in their podcast than what I've talked about on my channel before. So definitely check them out if you have questions about those things. Aww. Thank you so much, Evie. You're so good at generalizing and still giving your advice feels so personal. Thank you for taking the time to really go into my question. Your words really hit home. Aw, I'm happy. I hope it helped. I'm sorry you're crying, but hopefully it helped you feel better. So take care of yourself, my dude. Do you have any advice for someone who is physically disabled in the BDSM scene? So I have a video talking about this. If you go on my channel, it's an interview between two people I know in my local community and myself, and we talk about disability in the BDSM community. They have a combination of both visible and invisible disabilities, so I feel like it's a really good starting ground for sort of a conversation about, disability in the BDSM community. That is what I would watch as like the main resource I have to offer, but, I don't have partners that have physical disabilities. I don't personally have one. And so outside of the advice that's in that video from people that have that lived experience, I wouldn't necessarily feel like comfortable / qualified to give advice about it beyond just like affirming that it totally is possible. And, I have seen in dungeons, I have multiple times, I have seen very large bodied people be suspended. I have seen people in wheelchairs be suspended. I have seen, blind people, deaf people, like all sorts of different types of people, all sorts of different, at least visible disabilities in the BDSM community doing their thing, having a fun time. It is, just to acknowledge it, it is harder to find partners. It is harder to kind of communicate to people to let them know sort of what things that you're comfortable with and are possible for you versus maybe a non-disabled person. So that's something to keep in mind. That is something to look at, but I do have a video talking about what it's, as an interview, talking about what it's like to be a person with disabilities in the kink community. If you want to check that out, that would be my place to start, obviously, because I made it. So I am biased. Glad to see you once more. I was wondering, how do you consider BDSM relationships fundamentally different to vanilla relationships? How do you consider them fundamentally different from vanilla relationships? That is a great question. Because, I think, in one sense of the term fundamental, I think a lot of the core tenets that make BDSM relationships work are also what make vanilla relationships work, right? Like trust and honesty and telling your partner how you feel and all of that stuff is important to vanilla relationships as well as BDSM ones. But I would find the difference between, let's say, for example, a stereotypical, monogamous vanilla relationship and a BDSM one is that a vanilla relationship, I think, follows most of the time. The expectation, I should say, maybe rather, is that it follows a very specific path and pattern that it's supposed to be on, right? You go on dates with somebody, and then you establish that you're interested in them, and then you get intertwined into this relationship escalator of romantic and sexual connection that increases over time, and you basically go up this very certain pathway where is eventually the intention is that it's supposed to lead to marriage, and then you're in a wonderful monogamous marriage for the rest of your life, and all of these things are all combined together, and that's the things are supposed to go. Whereas I find in the BDSM community, sort of a BDSM relationship, there is more openness to that taking different forms as just a general practice. Like, you can have a BDSM relationship that's just BDSM, or BDSM and sex, or BDSM and sex and romance. It can be with people that are the gender that you're attracted to. It could be, that gender is totally irrelevant. And the shape of BDSM relationships, the way that they can grow and change, is so much more fluid than in vanilla relationships. So that's the way that I find them, as far as relationships go, to be different from each other. I would say, in practice, the main difference between, doing BDSM and, mainstream vanilla relationships is that, you have to be so much more forthcoming with things. I think in vanilla relationships, people spend a lot of time sort of, playing games with each other, where it's kind of this, back and forth, kind of which person is going to get the other person to share their private information first. Who's going to be the first one to make this proposal or disclose this information or be vulnerable, right? And so this constant sort of testing of, who's going to be the most vulnerable one first. And kind of doing little things to try and, maintain power in the relationship, because who has the power is not clearly negotiated as it is in a BDSM relationship. And so I think in BDSM, you know, rather than playing kind of this like silly little back and forth game of seeing who's going to get the most vulnerability out of the other person first, you know, because they don't want to risk being the one that gets hurt. You have to be so upfront right away with those vulnerabilities in terms of disclosure of like limits and boundaries and preferences and kinks and fetishes in order to make that BDSM relationship first. And so I think in practice, the main difference is like, when does that vulnerability happen? To what degree does it happen? And what does that look like on an ongoing basis? I think are where the two really diverge. I do have Animal Crossing New Horizons. It is very fun. The SAM model was so fascinating. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I have always found the SAM model to be very, very helpful. So I'm glad that it was helpful to others. We missed you last week? Well, I'm happy to be back. Okay. Ooh. It just jumped me to the end of the chat. So I try to answer things in order. So I apologize if I haven't gotten to your question yet, but there's a lot. So I'm trying to go through everything in order as best I can. Do you have any tips for finding friends or people to play with within the community that are not interested in a sexual component? I have a whole video about this. It is called like Platonic BDSM or something like that. So I have a whole video about it. But the advice is to advertise very openly when you're talking to people that you only want a like friendly connection and you're not looking for sex or romance. And like honesty, of course, is always key. So the more that you can do that, the more successful you're going to have. You know, it sucks because you're going to get rejected more because, you know, a lot of people do want romance, sex, or both with their BDSM, or at least taking that energy into the scene, even if it's not acted upon, which I think is the really sticky point. Is I've had experiences personally where people have told me that like, oh, BDSM isn't sexual for me, blah, blah, blah. And we negotiate this whole scene where it's not supposed to be sexual. You know, there's no sort of sexual contact is happening, but the energy they take into the scene is very sexual. And you can tell that it's a sexually charged experience for them. And so you have to be very, very clear that like, if you don't even want that, you have to be like, look, it's like, even if we're not having penetrative intercourse, like I do not want there to be anything sexual. And that includes like the energy that is contained within the scene. Even if it's not acted upon, I don't want to have that. So you have to be really clear and very specific because, you know, people can say, oh, it's not sexual for me. What they mean is like, yeah, I'm not going to put your penis in your whatever. I'm not going to put my penis in your whatever when we do the scene. But like that doesn't necessarily disqualify it being sexual on a different level. Can we talk about how your Marilyn Manson video was deleted? I don't know what you're talking about. I can literally see it right now on my channel. Yeah, it's... And today... I literally am playing it right now. Listen, okay? I have another video for you all. Today, unfortunately, we do have to discuss yet again... It's not gone. It's still there. YouTube didn't take it down, and neither did I. So if you can't find it, I don't know what's going on. Are Facebook groups a good idea to find munches in the future? I have not been on Facebook for over 5 years, so I really don't know what Facebook is like, so I can't answer that. But if anybody else has perspective on, you know, the BDSM community and munches and things on Facebook in particular, please let me know because I have no idea. My girlfriend and I are both ace, but she is sex positive and submissive, and I'm sex negative and trying to be more dom. Any tips for how to playfully communicate when I'm not feeling up to sex? I don't know if I'm the best person for giving like playful. I'm not really good at like flirting-y, you know, stuff like that. But I would probably, I think the intention of doing it in a playful way is to have it not be like insulting to your partner, because like, you don't want to make them feel like the reason that you're not up for like sexy times is because it's something that's wrong with them, right? You want it to be something that is it's you know, focused on your needs. So I mean, honestly, I would probably say something to the effect of like, uh you know, just like, I mean, honestly, I'd just say like, no, not right now. Like, I don't like act fancy about it. I just like, I just tell people, or at least I try to. I'm not always successful with it, but you know, my intention is always to communicate clearly, because that's like the problem. Because if you're too playful with it, then it can be misinterpreted as like being sarcastic, or you not really meaning it, or like you putting an invitation to be convinced to have sex. And like, I'm assuming you probably don't want those things. So like, I think avoiding ambiguity is best. But like, you don't have to be like, girlfriend, I do not want to have the penetrative intercourse with you. My deepest apologies. Like, you don't have to be a robot about it, but you can say it in a way that's just like, I think more or less like not playful, but casually. I think just not treating it as like a big put down, but just kind of putting it out there that like, yeah, I'm just like not really in the mood right now, you know? So I guess I don't know. Is she like directly propositioning for you for something sexual, or is it that like just making it clear ahead of time that like this isn't going to go in a sexual direction? Because those might be two different things to communicate about and respond to. I don't know. Do people in the chat have any sort of like phrases or things they use? Because like I'm really bad at like beating around the bush with things. If people have something that works for them that's like maybe more playful than just being like, I'm not really feeling very sexual right now. You know, just putting it out there. I don't know. Being indirect, not my strong suit, at least when it comes to that. How is your living situation? Are you okay? I am doing just fine. I have Bandit. She's right there on the floor, hanging out, having a great time on the floor. I mostly live in this one room because there's nothing in my living room right now. And occasionally I go to my kitchen. And so it's a little bit claustrophobic sometimes, but I like the little area I live in. The weather's been great. I'm doing craft projects. I'm cleaning. I'm organizing. Having a good time. So, things could always be better. But it's, it's life. It's 2021, baby. I mean, I just feel like Oblivion as a game is like the game that's designed to be just fucked with. Like, especially if you're playing it on the PC, it's like, God mode, please. Like, it is so easy to break that game. I think that's part of what made it fun is like, like you said, like 100% Chameleon, for example. Stuff like that was super fun. I always personally like just like, yeah, Chameleon was good. I mean, anything really like that. You could mess around with it pretty good. Ooh, we have a spicy take here about Skyrim. I don't really consider Skyrim a true RPG. Reason being is the biggest decision you can make is who wins the war. Unpopular opinion maybe, regardless, I enjoyed it a lot. I don't really bother too much with like trying to classify games as like one genre or another. Just like, especially because there's so much overlap these days. It's like, oh, it's a roguelike, it's a platformer, it's an RPG. Like, yeah, it's like trying to put genre labels on music. Like, the more you put labels on stuff, I think that, the more people focus on making sure something fits a label versus finding something they genuinely enjoy no matter what it's called. But, I can see an argument for that. I can see an argument for that, maybe. I mean, I don't know, though. I'm not a game designer. I'm not sure how they determine these things. I'm a retired dancer, and the whole improperly paired couples thing was the most complicated, complained about topic by far. Legit, 9 out of 10 dudes that say my wife has no sex drive. What do I do? This is crazy. Here, I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret. So I'm planning on making a video talking about a natural vegans video on cheating, because I still can't believe that video exists, and she said the things that she said in that video, because like it's for somebody that claims to have like I'm a fact-based channel and I follow where the evidence leads. Like, she certainly makes a lot of very anecdotal, unsupported points in the video that I think really are like honestly harmful for people to hear. Like, she talks about how like, oh, well, women lose their sex drive as they get older, but like statistically that's not true. And statistically we know that like retirees are having the most sex out of every age demographic. So, it's and don't necessarily, that is me remembering studies. So obviously when I do the video, I would look up and confirm that's what current research is showing. That's simply my memory. But like, people just like think that women, like, I don't know how to explain this to you. World, internet, everyone, every living human being. Men complain that women have no sex drives. And like, I'm asexual, so maybe my opinion on this is a little bit biased. Usually, it's not that the woman doesn't want to have sex because they don't like the concept of sex. It almost always has to do with some flavor of, like, they're not feeling emotionally intimate in other parts of the relationship. They don't feel physically cared for. There's some other kind of undressed incompatibility or hurt or something. And a percentage of that is a friction in, like, they want sex more than I do. But if you're in a long-term, like, married relationship, it's probably not just that they don't want to have sex in general because they dislike the concept of sex. There's almost always some other kind of emotional, mental component. Oh, wow. Oh, thank you so much, Jocko Clubs, for the living room fund. Yes. Thank you. I'm so excited. It does not, the super chats don't get added to the counter on Streamlabs for some reason, but I will add that to the total after the live stream. We're super, super close. Thank you so much. Wow, we're like so close. I am so excited. So I talked already about this earlier, but we have a tapestry. We're going to have lights. And then I'm going to see how that looks, and I'm going to decide what else. I kind of want a skull, like a black skull to have on my nightstand. I don't know. I just thought that would be like a cute little like house. I don't know if it's a subtle decoration, but like that, I thought it would be cute. I thought it would be cute. Okay. Let's help Sabrina. All right. We got something going on. We got a guy. I've talked with a guy on OKC, and while we were really having a fun talk, oh no. Sabrina, I have a video that's going to be out for you tomorrow, and I want you to watch it. I'm just telling you right now. And he started to throw in his rape fantasies on me out of nowhere, and when I told him that made me uncomfortable, he didn't stop. I really like talking to him, but I'm a little afraid. Should I stop talking to him? Okay, girl. I literally... the universe... We're in sync, okay? Tomorrow, noon, I have a video coming out called How to Spot a Fake Dom. And I talk about this exact situation. I'm not even kidding you. So, my opinion is personally, he has shown you everything that you need to know about this guy, which is he's probably really focused on sex and fulfilling his fantasies. And what he's not concerned about is your consent or enjoyment of those fantasies. Like, he didn't stop, right? It would be one thing if, like, dude was just throwing a Hail Mary to see if you were into the same kink as him, and then when he discovered it made you uncomfortable, he was like, oh man, I'm so sorry, like, what can I do to make this better? I didn't want to make you uncomfortable. Like, it would be one thing if he had that reaction, but if he both started to talk to you about a fantasy you didn't consent to hearing about, and then didn't stop when you told him to, it doesn't matter how nice he seems, he does not have your own best interest at heart, because it's really easy to seem like a nice person over the internet and have bad intentions at the same time if you are simply trying to get your, like, kink fetish needs met. So it sucks, but I really think that probably what's good for your safety, if nothing else, is to not talk to this guy, because the combination of him both throwing that kind of fantasy out there without any warning and then not stopping, like, do we like similar little patterns going on here as Army Hammer? You know, it's, you know, talking about fantasies, not checking in, and then not stopping. Like, it's not a good sign for how you see other people and how you're able to respect their boundaries. And this isn't to say anything about like rape fantasies themselves or talking about fantasies with people you're flirting with online. Like, you can do those things in respectful ways. You can talk about fantasies, you can share those things, especially if you're looking for a relationship where you can share those fantasies and, you know, you even have fantasies that sync up. Like, it is important to talk about that early on so you can identify if you're compatible or not. But I don't think that's what this guy was trying to do. So my advice is to cut your losses and talk to somebody else that doesn't violate your boundaries. Because this guy ain't worth it. No. Yes, that's called a red flag. Yes, I think the other people in chat know what's up. So I think the majority verdict on the jury here is that this guy, you know, and obviously we're only, you know, we're talking in the abstract from only your perspective. So, you know, there's always possibilities that maybe we're not necessarily seeing the full picture. But even without that, I think I'm fairly confident in that assessment. I feel pretty strongly about that one. Yes, I am still live streaming. Welcome. Okay, so how is someone surprised during a CNC scene after all the negotiating? How do you negotiate for such a scene? So I think what's important to remember is that the CNC isn't necessarily about surprise. I do have a video where I talk about how to use surprise. It's called like surprise play or something on my channel already. I did like a year or two ago. So that will help you specifically if you're looking for a surprise. Typically, CNC, consensual non-consent play, is not only about the surprise component. So you can like fully negotiate everything that's going to happen in the whole scene. And just because you're not surprised by it doesn't mean that it won't be intense and emotional and vulnerable and all those other things as well. Also, I think generally when people are trying to have those types of scenes where there is surprise involved, I mean, for one thing, and any sorts of scenes like this, you know, you have to have an established relationship where you've done other scenes, you know, preferably scenes that involve as many of the elements that you want to have in this scene individually as possible. And you test to see how those work out for you. And you can kind of negotiate in a way that's more like open and vague. So like you can talk about like categories, for example. So would you be okay if and then you offer like a list of options, right? And then they can pick and choose the things that they're not okay with. But, you know, let's say you have a list of like, here are all the things that I could do during this scene. What are things you are explicitly not okay with me doing under any circumstances? What can I do if it's in a specific way? Or what is like, absolutely, yes, I want that. And then they can cultivate a scene using any number of those in any combination. And so it's not necessarily that you know like A, B, C, D, E is going to happen in that order. It could be F, G, Roman numeral 2, 27. Like the list can go all over the place in terms of like what order and thing is happening. But you've given the person, you know, nothing that's, so the idea is like nothing that's not on that list will happen, but anything that you say yes to on that list could happen. And you don't know if it's going to be one thing or 10 or in what combination or what point in the scene. And that helps to contribute to the surprise because you have the anticipation of being like, I know vaguely what could happen and I'm anticipating those maybes, but I don't actually know for sure what's going to happen. Oh, what happened to my audio thing? Oh, okay. Guess we're doing that. All right. Where is it? Oh, there we go. Okay. Audio is not down. Okay, let's see. Where were we in the questions? Oh, that's a good idea, Bobby. So in regards to establishing if you, if you want sex or not, like between like two ace people and one's like, sex positive and one's not. I use a code word when I don't want to. LMAO. I say I'm having technical difficulties. I love that. Such a great idea. That's amazing. Or how about you just date? How about you do the same thing and just date someone with your type of sex drive, humans? Well, I mean, that's like, I guess maybe I misunderstood the question. I think there's one thing, which is like, I'm purposely seeking out, you know, somebody that shares the same sex drive as me. And then there's like, I've been married for 20 years and, you know, we married when we were 20 and now we're 40 and our relationship and our family and our sexualities have changed and discovered, and we found so many things over that time that's really, really different from when we started. And so I think that's something you have to take into account is like, you can seek people out at the beginning that match you, but life happens, circumstances change, people find new things, and you know, in a negative sense, resentment and fear and shame and things can build up in the relationship that basically kind of create this gunk that like covers the sexualness of the relationship, you know, for lack of a less disgusting term. And so you can seek out people that do have a similar sex drive, but a lot can happen that makes that change or covers it up to make it seem like it's not truly compatible. Maybe it is, but there's just a lot of unresolved I can see most comments, but not all of them. I don't know what you're talking about. Are you talking about in the video? What is you mean you can't see all comments? There's definitely comments that I have deleted from people in the chat because some people don't know how to be appropriate. Which is unfortunate, but such is life. Okay. Okay. Training both a kitten and middle. She was with a master before me. I'm a daddy. I'm nearer to this than she is. I know the end goal. I just don't know the steps in between. Okay. Gosh, it's like I want to help, but like these questions are, this is like such an open-ended thing. I mean, I really think, you know, when it comes to training, especially if they do have more experience than you, I think you should ask them. Like honestly, like honest to God, this is my true answer. My true answer for you is that like talk to your partner about what they want from training, because training can mean so many different things to different people. Like, do they want to acquire a specific skill? Do they want to learn how to do a specific thing in a way that pleases you? Do they want to develop something personally, like you know, patience, for example? And then you can tailor your specific rules and things to that. But like, you know, the internet, like a list on the internet isn't going to tell you what those things are. It's your partner is going to tell you. So have that conversation with your partner. Say that you want to develop a training regimen with them, but you want to hear what they find motivating about training and what sorts of things that they would want to be trained in. It could be specific things. It could be general. If it's general, that gives you the information that you need to research things, but or find in particular ideas. But if it's just, I want to be trained as a middle and a kitten, like those options are so vast. It could be anything from tricks to like kneeling positions to anything in between, right? And you know, it's a lot to try and experiment with. So the more that you can narrow it down, the easier it'll be to find things that work. Glass curly straw. Are those a thing? Do they make glass curly straws? I would totally get one if they do. Yes, thank you, Jay Darko. I'm blind and kinky myself. We just want to be treated the same, but we know our boundaries at the same time. Yes, oh my gosh. I mean, I think really when it comes to people with disabilities in the BDSM community, the number one thing that I see talked about that I don't really think non-disabled people internalize is like the infantilization that happens. You know, a lot of people feel like they're not treated as adults, especially and even in the kink community, because people sort of think, you know, when they're not disabled themselves, that like, oh, well, you have this XYZ thing, and so therefore that means that you don't have the maturity, the ability, or experience to really know what you want, right? And like, I just, when I see that, I just want to burn things. It just makes me mad. Makes me mad. You know, it's let human adults be adults, please. Thank you. Yes. Wife who is 32 and has no sex drive. Am I doomed? As Kim said, there are too many variables. Therapy would be a great start. Yes, absolutely. I really, really think, the best thing that you can do when you, especially if you're in a really long-term relationship and there's been a significant change in sex drive, like individual and couples therapy that specializes in sexual connection. It's a very, very common problem, and you're not alone in that. And there are professionals that can help you work through that, discover the root cause of why it's changing, if it has changed, if it's a negative thing that they want to have altered, if they're comfortable with that change. Like, all of that can be something that's helped with a professional. And just saying, am I doomed or not, is a little, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of variables there, my friend. I don't know. I would imagine not. There's almost always a reason for it. Yes, as Rachel said, instead of asking if you're doomed, maybe be more concerned for her end. Oh my gosh, I think you've maybe located the problem there, Rachel. Perhaps somebody else's sex drive isn't, worried about you being doomed. Or I think maybe a better phrasing would be, is your relationship doomed? You are not doomed. It's not your problem with your sex drive, if it is indeed a problem, because having a low or no sex drive is not inherently a problem. It is only a problem if the person that is experiencing it thinks it's a problem and feels like it's something that they want to change. And maybe she doesn't. You know, my dude? Double Evie? What? I mean, I don't know what that means. What happened? I don't know. Okay, I don't think it's still happening. I don't know what double Evie means. Did I do something by accident? Oh, it was the voice. I think that was when I was playing the video to check my audio. Or the Marilyn Manson video, maybe. My friend just came out as non-binary. I keep calling them them dude/man. I don't mean it in a gendered way, but I'm not sure if they appreciate it. I should probably just ask, do you have any advice? I mean, I feel like you already have the advice you need, which is that you should ask them. I like, personally, I live on the West Coast, and so, dude here is very, very widely used to the point where we call inanimate, non-gendered objects dude. And so some people that are non-binary are fine being called dude, but there is a gendered implication there. And so if you're person that you're friends with doesn't want to be called dude/man, I think, honestly, I think if anything, asking them in a direct way whether or not they're comfortable with something shows that you intend to and want to validate their gender, and that you're not just making assumptions about what they're comfortable with. And especially if it's something where they're newer, to be honest about that and being open with that. Having people that want to support them in a very concrete way to make sure they're comfortable, I think actually is very meaningful for a lot of people. Yes, some non-binary people don't mind that, but it's an individual thing. Just ask them and see how they feel about it. Exactly. As a newbie, how do I get comfortable to the idea of being in a room full of people doing kink before going to my first play party? I'm still trying to get used to the idea of kink being done to me. I mean, honestly, I think the best way to do it is to watch other people. Like, you don't have to stare in a creepy way, but go, when we open back up again, and this is a possibility, obviously, the intention of going to dungeons, I think, especially the first couple times you go, should not necessarily be to go and play and have a big old exhibitionist scene. It's a great opportunity to observe your local community, watch other people, understand the energy better, understand the community better. And I think when you do that and you can kind of understand and sort of try to put yourself in those people's shoes that are being observed and doing scenes, and kind of seeing what they're going through emotionally and physically as that happens, I think that can be a really, really powerful tool, more so than anything else I can think of to suggest to sort of get used to the idea of you being the one to do kink in front of other people. And then obviously I think the next step after that is to do, you know, do it in the, you don't have to do it in like the middle of the, you know, most crowded part of the party or whatever. But usually there's some variety of options, at least most dungeons I've been to, of something that's, you know, it's still in public, so it's still safe. Like, it's not like locked doors or anything, but, you know, something that's off to the side, a little bit quieter, a little bit more intimate. And I think those spaces can also be more comfortable because you know that you're not going to have literally, you know, 100 eyes on you all at once. Yes, I'm so happy. Thank you for answering my question. You totally got my point, and I appreciate the advice. Well, I'm glad I could help. And I think I also followed up. Some people in the comments had additional advice. I really like the code word thing. So if you can find maybe a playful like code phrase or code word to communicate, I think that's a really, really great way to do it. So. Hi, honey. What are we doing? Hi, little girl. Do you want to come up and say hello? Do you want to say hello? Hi. Hi, little girl. Come on. Come on, what are we doing? What are we doing? No, we're rolling on the floor. We're rolling on the floor. That's not what we want. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. Little gremlin girl. All right. Come on, little Gracefoot. We will play after the stream is done. For now, you'll be on my lap. Hello, this is my gremlin. I don't know if you guys heard that noise that she made, but it was cute. You guys can see a little bit of the gremlin. Just enough. She's in a mood. She wants to be played with. She's like, I would like to be entertained, human. Entertain me. Entertain me. Entertain the doggo. Okay, where was I in the chat? Would self-tying classes be a good recommendation for someone interested in being tied with rope for the first time? Yes. I personally, you know, and people have different feelings and philosophies about this. I do think it is very useful to, you know, learn how to tie yourself to a certain extent, you know, knowing basic things. So that way, you know the lingo, you kind of have a better sense of like what particular right ways of doing things are. And there's, you know, all sorts of debates and variations in the rope bondage community about what's safe, what the best technique is. You know, there's debate there. But, you know, I think learning how to self-tie and giving yourself a basic skill set in that can be very, very helpful for, like, you know, for example, identifying rope tops that know what they're talking about and the ones that are just full of bullshit. So I would certainly say it's helpful. And at the least, you will learn a new skill. You meet some people that are in the bondage community, and especially, you know, with self-tying, a lot of people that get into self-tying also bottom, also do other things with rope, and so that can also be a good way to meet people to get incorporated into the larger, you know, bondage part of the BDSM world where you live. And, you know, unless it's an online class, in which case I guess that doesn't really apply quite as much. I'm assuming it is, but as a general concept, it is. Is it reasonable for me to want to keep my legal name out of my kink life? It absolutely is. That's why we have scene names. I've talked about that many, many times before on my channel. Some people use scene names where it's like they go by that everywhere at all times with everyone that they meet from the kink community. Some people just use a scene name for when they are at parties, and then when you get to know them and tell you their legal name. But a lot of people keep their legal name out of the kink world for a variety of reasons, and it's very, very common. You know, people aren't like insulted or, you know, are like, you lied to me, you know, because you have a scene name, generally speaking. Can you be a dominant even if you are disabled? Yes. There is a book. It is by Raven Caldera. It is called Hell on Wheels. I think you can get on Amazon through the Kindle store. It's very affordable, and they have stories in there about being a dominant. that is also disabled. And as many people in the chat have already chimed in from personal experience and such like, you can absolutely be a dom and disabled. Not incompatible. Oh my gosh. Gerard Way from My Chemical Romance also named their child Bandit. You know, I didn't get to pick Bandit's name. This is the name that she came with, and I've decided that she is named Bandit because she's a love thief. She's a little love thief. Yes, you are, honey. That, and you're really good at finding food when we go on walks, and I don't know how you do it. We found half of a Twinkie. We find chicken wings. We found a burrito. We find all kinds of stuff on this street when we go on walks, don't we, honey? The birds leaving us tribute. I am like, you know, guys, I gotta admit it, I've never been a fan of emo music. My Chemical Romance, any of that stuff. I went from listening to country music to metal in like the same year. I never had a pop punk phase. I never had an emo music phase. Linkin Park maybe. Does Linkin Park count as emo music? Because I did listen to Linkin Park. So if that one is emo, then I have. But not like My Chemical Romance and that kind of thing, or like Panic at the Disco, I never listened to really. Obviously the big famous songs when they came on the radio. But other than that, you know, I've never owned merch from them, for example. Have you realized anything new about yourself? If so, what and why? If you're comfortable sharing. Like recently, like in, I don't think there's anything in particular. I will say in a vague way, yes. But I am planning on making a video about it, so I will leave it to be a little bit of a surprise. But yes, there's always constant growth and development as part of the Evie Lupine BDSM experience, as I believe it often is for most people. Okay, there we go. There we go. We're back. We're back. Any plans on collaborating with other YouTubers? You plus What's the Safe Word would be epic. We have been on each other's channel before. We had planned on doing more in the future, you know, for example, when I go to San Francisco for Folsom Street Fair, but that did not happen this year. So hopefully this coming year, Folsom, we will be able to do something again. But, you know, they've also been very busy with, like, suing YouTube, for example. So, not necessarily in a position to do that again. But I definitely plan on doing things with other YouTubers. It's just hard when, you know, COVID is happening. I have not watched A Story of O. I probably will at some point, but not as of yet. Any plans for a video on solo play for us singles in the year of our Lord 2021? I already have a video about solo play. If you search my channel, ye shall find it. The gift is awaiting. Are there other sites other than FetLife to find partners? I've been looking for a dom that's not a bot. Ooh, that's a tough one. That's a tough one, especially if you're looking for a dom. Because all the doms I know, pretty much, like, right now, they're really restricting things to just, like, professional work. So I'm assuming you're not looking for a professional, because if you were, there's tons of websites for that. But, I mean, like, honestly, really, the options are FetLife, taking a chance on OKC, or waiting until we can go to real-life events. I don't have any other websites, really, that I can just recommend out of hand to go to. I know of other ones, but not enough about them to, like, you know, encourage you to pay for a premium account or something to get all the available services, unfortunately. Hi, honey buns. What are we doing? What are we doing, honey buns? I don't know. What are you doing? You're falling off the chair. Don't do that. Don't fall off the chair. Evie's best kept secret, the relentless anger of 1,000 suns. I don't know if that's my best kept secret. I'm definitely a vindictive person at times, and I get frustrated when people do things that are ableist and racist and all the ists. That just is like, why? Why do we gotta live our lives this way, putting other people down? That's not fun. Hi, Bandit. I'm licking my hand. Why are we licking my hand? Why is it tasty? Why is my hand tasty? I found out the hard way telling people in the kink community you have CPTSD attracts all the manipulative people who break your consent and then try to gaslight you about it. Oh no, this one's the award for saddest comment in this chat right now because it's sad, but it's very true. That's like the unfortunate part because I feel like you do have to play this. I don't like the term, but you have to kind of play this game. It's really not a game, but it's for your own safety where like you do want to be open so that people are like aware, but you don't want it to be so out there that people are like, ah, yes, let me manipulate this person because I know that they're vulnerable. So personally, you know what I have found works I think the best for people's safety is, you know, not having it be an open information thing, but do have it come up in part of the conversation where it would be relevant, you know, obviously. But I'm so sorry that happened to you. Not your fault for being an open and honest person. Unfortunately, there are those, as you have experienced, that do try to take advantage of that. And it makes me very angry. I will end them with my sun laser beam. Oh, interesting. Have you heard of a channel called Psychology in Seattle? It's a YouTube channel and podcast that is run by a licensed therapist. They also recently covered Armie Hammer. I have not. I will definitely check them out, though. Sorry, I'm investigating Bandit. This is what I do because I love her. I have not. I will check it out, though. I'd be very curious. I mean, I watched Dr. Grande's video about Armie Hammer, but I do not remember seeing another psychologist talk about it. On another happy note, Mickey says, I'm in a wheelchair and the kink community has given me total acceptance more than the vanilla world ever has. That's wonderful. See, it could be positive. Things can go up, you know? So I'm very, very happy to hear that. What are you supposed to do in a 24/7 DS relationship? Gosh, the word supposed is a very loaded word, isn't it? I mean, the only thing that 24/7 DS means, like as a basic, like this is the general way that people do it. At its core, what it means is that you are doing some form of BDSM on a daily basis. That could be through a ritual that you have every morning and night. That could be through a set of rules. That could be through having little mini scenes throughout the day. That could be through using titles. There's lots of things that you could do, but not necessarily should or are supposed to do in a 24/7 DS relationship. And what form that takes is really up to you, what you find motivating and what you have time for and what feels connected in your relationship. Yes, asking is always best. That is really the true answer. Asking your partner directly, though scary, is always ideal. Oh, thank you, Randolph. I've seen some of your videos, and I found every one of them to be highly informative. Thank you so much for your excellent hard work. Thank you so much. You know, I try my best, and sometimes I fail, and sometimes I succeed. Okay. I'm going to give everybody, we're going to have a little 10-minute warning here. Well, I guess in 9 minutes. It's going to be over in 10 minutes. So if you haven't asked your question yet, if I missed it, re-ask it now or ask it for the first time now. I will try my best to get to as much as I can. I cannot make promises about getting into everything, but we do mostly do these every week. So we do have opportunities in the future. I'm somewhat new to BDSM, half a year. My dom and I want to try a dungeon, but we both want to stay close and we don't know where to start. What are some good starter dungeon activities? So what I think a lot of people enjoy about dungeons is sort of two things. They like the energy that dungeons offer because you have a lot of people doing BDSM, and the ambiance, the sounds, the music, you know, all of that kind of in a space, sort of environmental background can be very different from playing at home in a positive way. Two is the furniture. So if you want to stay close, by which I assume you mean, you don't want to play with other people, you don't want to be in a group scene, which, you know, that's not the default at BDSM spaces anyways, is I would, like, if you're going to go to a dungeon, figure out what furniture they have available and, like, just do what you would normally do at home, but, like, see how it feels to do it, like, using a St. Andrew's cross or being tied down to a spanking horse or, you know, a prayer kneeler or whatever else it is that they have. And, you know, I think even just kind of just changing that one element of a scene that maybe you're more familiar with, I think is a really good introduction to being in a dungeon because, you know, physically, in terms of the scene itself, you know what to expect, but there's just that much of an environmental difference to where it's a good way to get used to without changing too much and having it be completely different from what you've experienced in a way that can, you know, make something change from, like, good and exciting to, like, unfamiliar and scary. You know, that can be a complicated line to walk. Aw, I'm gonna fall asleep listening to this. Evie's voice is comforting and it's late. Good night, chat with Evie. Yes, exactly. I'm happy you. Oh, and Bandit sneezes occasionally. So, hi, are we okay, honey? Sometimes we just sneeze. I don't know why. We just sneeze. Bandit life. Bandit life. How frequently should I wear sexy lingerie or BDSM clothing? As often as you want. You know, I think, you know, the Dita Von Teese method is to wear lingerie every day because it gives you empowerment and makes you feel happy about yourself and sexy and all that. And, you know, frankly, I mostly just wear sweatpants. So, you know, I don't really care. I don't really care. I love my clothing. I love fashion. I do not waste it on being around the house and potentially getting, you know, bleach and soap and you know, bath and body experiment products on it. So I have fancy outfits I like to wear, but I say those for dungeons and date nights and things along those lines. But, you know, it's whatever how much you want. I mean, like, experiment, you know. Sometimes you wear it for date night, sometimes you wear it all the time, see how that makes you feel. Obviously, the annoying part is, like, the more that you're wearing stuff like that, then you gotta, you know, do a little delicate cycle in the laundry. And, you know, it can be annoying to, you know, spend 2 hours doing laundry when you're just waiting on, like, you know, 2 bras and a thong, you know? You're wearing clothes. I know it's a surprise. I am, in fact, wearing clothing. I know. Shock. Shock and horror. Shock and horror. Okay. I don't know what that song was that I was just doing. Ba-da-da-da. Oh, okay. Here we go. What is a good electricity toy to start with? I'm a masochist, but I'm not a fan of canes. Does electricity feel similar in a concentrated pain sense? That really depends on the electricity toy you're doing. So this will maybe help you decide. There's sort of 2 general schools of electro play toys. And I realize I don't have a video about this. Somebody was supposed to make a video about it with me a long time ago and it never happened. Because I personally don't enjoy electroplay. It makes me very anxious for most types of electroplay. But there is electroplay, that uses things like, for example, the Tzapper and Violet Wands, where it's primarily like it's usually pretty loud, but it basically creates a spark on the surface of the skin that is loud and visual, and that is concentrated in the fact that obviously the spark is taking up a small area. But it is very like surface level. The other type of electro play is based on a TENS unit, and that is basically causing electroconvulsive muscular contractions, and that can be very spread out because how much of that is taking place is dependent on where you put. There's like electro pads that you put on to do that, and how far apart they're spread out. Obviously, it's going to take up more or less area on the body when you do that. And some people really like one and really like the other, or they hate both, or they like both. It just depends. You have to experiment a little. If I had to pick like a toy to start with for electroplay, I would probably either start with, if you can like borrow somebody's TENS unit and get your own electro pads to use with them, or if you get a Tzapper. I think that's a good introduction to the other type of sensation that can happen with electricity. These are also very common things to have at play parties. So eventually, when dungeons are back open, there may be one available at the dungeon. You may be able to borrow one from somebody else to try it out before you invest in one. But caning and electricity, I do think they are very different sensations. So just because you don't like one doesn't mean you won't like the other. Twinkies self-replicate? Maybe. I believe it. That makes sense. I've tried finding books on DOMs with disabilities, but they seem to only be about DOMs with mental disabilities, not physical ones. So, like, when I suggested Hell on Wheels, that is literally a reference to, like, a dominant being in a wheelchair. So, like, they divided up these series of books into 4 books on purpose, because one is dealing with mental health and mental illness issues in dominance and submission, and the other one is with physical disability in dominance and submission. So it is very explicitly about physical disability. If you haven't read it yet, Raven Caldera, Hell on Wheels, it is specifically about physical disabilities and BDSM. It is specifically about that. So if you hadn't found that yet, if you're wondering, that is an option that does cover that exact subject. Yes, also, I do forget, TENS units are also available at some drugstores because they are used for at-home pain management as well. So that can be an option, and it's something that, unlike a lot of kink toys, we do actually have fairly extensive studies about, because it is used as part of physical therapy and pain management, and it has been for quite a long time. Oh man, I had to know, and I had to know what was gonna happen. I accidentally started a genre fight in the comments. Always happens. You literally can't mention music without starting a definition and genre flame war. Okay, I get it. I listen to goth music. Happens all the time. People can't get over it. Where is the line between post-punk and goth rock? And not goth, Is Depeche Mode goth? It is the eternal question. I'm curious, what is a graysexual? A graysexual is a person that is on the asexual spectrum, which generally means that they infrequently experience sexual attraction. And so they're on the A spectrum, so they don't fully experience sexual attraction in the way that allo or non-asexual people do. And they don't ever not experience it, and it can get into an area where you're kind of questioning whether or not you've actually experienced it. I consider myself a graysexual because I generally do not experience sexual attraction. It's not impossible, but it's not uncommon. It's not impossible. But it is very uncommon. I would say in all of my dating experience, I have been sexually attracted to 2 people. I started dating when I was 15, so that is 10 plus years of experience with dating, and I've dated quite a number of people, and I've only been sexually attracted to 2 of them, and I have only had sex with one of those 2 people I was actually attracted to. So, you know, that's me. That helps you answer that question. That is the correct answer, Jay. Depends on which album by Depeche Mode. Black Celebration is Goth by default. True, though. True, though. Oh, my best gig ever was Sisters of Mercy is playing Depeche Mode. Wow, that sounds like quite the experience. I love that. That I would, oh man. I'm so upset that I never got to, like, that I had, like, I was literally, if I would have been born like 5 years earlier, I could have gone to God's clubs before they all just like got nuked off the face of the planet. What a life to live. Have you ever watched Secretary with Maggie Gyllenhaal? I have a video review on it that we did on Patreon a while ago that will be live on YouTube very soon. Shock and awe. Okay. Well, that is our 10 minutes, everyone. I will give you a gift of Bandit as we're saying goodbye. Hi, honey. My little Grinch girl. Look at this little Grinch girl. Hi. Welcome. All right. We're going to wrap up. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. I think we had some great conversations today. We covered a lot of stuff. Thank you all so much for being here. So much good advice. So much good advice, right, Bandit? Yes, we are. And we do stream. I have been streaming at 6:30 just to kind of experiment, and also because of my sleep schedule. I think we are going to go back to the 6 o'clock time, though. So it'll be 6:30 start time next week, Friday, if you want to ask more questions, if you want to hang out. Thank you so much for being here once again. And there will be a video tomorrow, so look out for that. Tomorrow, noon. Very important video related to a lot of the topics that we have been covering recently on the channel, and I think you guys are really going to like it. And, yeah. Have a good night, guys. Bye.